The Program for Infant-Toddler Caregivers is an activity of Far West Laboratory, Center for Child and Family Studies, and the California Department of Education, Child Development Division. "100,000 years ago, humankind discovered fire. It changed forever the way we live. 500 years ago, Galileo discovered that the Earth isn't at the center of the universe. This changed the way we think about our place in the cosmos. Today's explorers make their discoveries with the whole world watching. We share with them the excitement of liftoff, the adventure of flight, the exploration of space. Adult fascination with the secrets of the universe is the same fascination we see in infants. They concentrate, they solve problems, they experiment, following the same path of discovery as Galileo. When you watch infants closely, you start to get a feeling for just how important discovery is to them. They're busy trying to make sense out of their experiences. Hundreds of times a day, they are uncovering the mysteries of the world, learning from what they see, hear, feel, taste, and touch.
Hello, I'm Gary Thompson, Director of the Oakland Parent-Child Center. One of the things that impresses me most about infants and toddlers is their constant quest for knowledge. No matter what infants are doing, they're taking in information. They order, classify, integrate, kind of like a computer. In this video, we will explore the process of discovery and show how infants and toddlers learn.
Infants use every means they have to learn about things. They start with simple sense and motor experiences and move toward figuring things out in their heads. Young learners use materials in any way that occurs to them and learn lessons as much from getting it wrong as getting it right. Many of the early lessons can be grouped into the following 6 discoveries. How to use tools.
Yeah. Okay.
The relationship between cause and effect.
Okay, let's see my kids do it.
The understanding that objects are permanent. How things move and fit in space. The power of imitation. How to organize action and thought into patterns, schemes for learning. Schemes are important because they are the building blocks for all other discovery. By using learning schemes like banging and mouthing, a child gains valuable information about things. Early on, schemes are simple. Mouthing, banging, handling, and shaking lead to discovering the properties of objects and how they are best used. Infants will try their schemes on just about everything. In the process, they learn about objects and get ideas about new ways to act. Eli is exploring what he can do with his toys. As he studies them, how they move, how they feel, he learns to treat them differently, and in the process begins to understand the concepts of similarity and difference. Experiences with hard things, soft things, noisy things, sticky things give children information that helps them put objects into categories, such as things to shake or things to pull. Sometimes the schemes a child knows, such as moving objects back and forth and up and down, don't work too well. Infants practice adapting and combining schemes until they perfect one that works. Practice not only makes perfect, but leads to experimentation. There's always something more to figure out. As children grow older, they become more selective in the way they handle things. They don't need to use every scheme they know on every object. Instead, they pick and choose, no longer using basic schemes like mouthing and banging when they're exploring such qualities as size, shape, and color. Infants also develop schemes related to the actions of people, such as connecting music to dance.
Are you dancing?
And the appropriate use of things like cups, forks, and spoons. Scheme development helps children discover how objects are best used and how to use them in new and interesting ways. It is the foundation for all other discoveries. As infants develop, they begin to understand that events and outcomes are caused. They learn to cause things to happen themselves and to search objects for ways to make things happen.
You do it. Good girl, Krisha. Very good. That's a good one.
Young infants don't know the relationship between cause and effect. Brett is surprised when the toy rolls away and doesn't seem to realize that he caused it. Through exploring and experimenting, the connection between cause and effect starts to become clear. Gradually, infants learn that a specific action, such as turning the knob on the music box, will produce a predictable outcome. We'll use this wind-up cheerleader to illustrate how children develop an understanding of cause and effect. For safety's sake, stay close if you use this type of toy. 7-month-old Judy is fascinated with our cheerleader.
Is she gonna get you?
At her stage of development, she explores the toy, and in the way she knows how, may even be trying to get it going again. Twenty-month-old Elliot is fascinated too. At first, he relates to the cheerleader as Judy did. But then he examines it more closely. It's almost as if you can see his mind working, inspecting the toy. As he explores, he tries to cause it to move again. He uses his hand to get the baton going. He bangs its head in imitation of how the caregiver got it to move, and finally gives it back, maybe to get the caregiver to start it moving again. He knows more about cause than Judy does, but hasn't yet learned the connection between turning the knob and causing movement. Tonito, with 2.5 years of experience behind him, has no problem finding out what makes the gorilla jump. He goes right for the wind-up knob. He's made the connection. Throughout infancy, children are continually discovering the links between cause and effect and searching out causal mechanisms. They learn that they can cause things to happen with their own bodies, that other people and objects can cause things to happen, and that specific parts of objects, like wheels, light switches, and buttons on cameras, can cause specific effects.
Sense and motor actions like mouthing, rubbing, and dropping are building blocks for future learning. As children explore and play, their thought processes grow in a purposeful and in an orderly way. When a child makes a discovery, it may not by itself seem like much, but even a tiny insight is part of a larger learning process. A new insight, such as something causes a toy to move, is influenced by previous insights. Things move.
Is she gonna get you?
And influences future ones. Hey, I can turn a knob and make a toy move. Each insight leads to new insights and greater knowledge. All learning takes place this way. With this in mind, let's take a look at the next two discoveries, use of tools and object permanence.
A tool can be anything: a cry, a hand, a caregiver, or an object. Anything children can use to accomplish what they want. Infants learn to extend their power through the use of tools. They learn that a tool is a means to an end. Young infants learn to use their bodies to get what they want. For example, early crying usually brings a nurturing response. After repeated responses, the child learns to use the cry to get her needs met. Infants use their bodies as tools in lots of different ways. By reaching out for things, by crawling to a desired object, by pulling what they want to them. By learning to use even their mouths as tools, they get done what they want to get done. Another way infants demonstrate their growing awareness of tool use is by getting people to do things for them. They often use their caregivers as tools. The caregiver is seen as an effective way to get things done. It might not seem very complimentary to be treated as a tool.
You want me to get it? Yeah.
But using you as a tool is an important step in the infant's cognitive growth.
You're welcome.
Your going along with them is a great gift.
Okay. I'm ready. Okay.
Of course, objects are tools too. Janaea is figuring out that she can get the hammer she wants by using the towel as her tool.
There is the hammer. Yay, Janaea.
Sherman is using a chair to get to a toy. As children grow older, they develop this type of tool use strategy in their heads. At these later stages of infancy, ideas have become tools. Johnny has come up with the idea of using the abacus as a tray. Trying something new may not always work, but it's the idea that counts. With this new thinking ability, he can accomplish many things. For young babies, out of sight often means out of mind. Infants are not born knowing about the permanence of objects. They learn this important lesson gradually. Repeated experiences with such things as a bottle or a mother's face help children discover that familiar objects are permanent. One of the ways infants show their initial understanding of this concept is by identifying and tracking objects. They learn that though a thing moves or is temporarily out of sight, it still exists. Being able to hold an object in memory, even when it is hidden from sight, is a major intellectual achievement. 4-month-old Eli doesn't yet do this. At 7 months, Judy is just starting to get the picture and hold a favorite doll in memory.
Where'd she go? Can you figure that out?
She knows something's happening,
There she is.
and certainly seems to recognize the doll when it reappears. 20-month-old Elliot has kept a car in memory for quite some time and searches for it, confident of its existence. It's obvious that he knows what he's looking for.
Elliot found the car. Good job.
By the time a child is Sophia's age, she has a clear sense that things are permanent. She can keep in mind the book and where it went. When asked, she can even find it.
Where's Babe Daisy?
Sophia has come to know that things exist over time, that there is a past, present, and future. Her whole world is taking on a greater sense of stability. There is also an emotional component to understanding the concept of permanence. Learning that Mom exists, even when she's not in the room, deepens the child's attachment and heightens her awareness of Mom when she's gone. Yating's capacity to keep in mind an image of her mother is important. It is strengthening her ability to form emotional attachments.
Ya Ting and her mother show us a close connection between intellect and emotion. Children not only integrate intellectual and emotional development, but all developmental domains: intellectual, emotional, social, physical, and language. They're learning any number of things at once. For example, when a child steps on a block, he may simultaneously develop a scheme, like I can use a foot to squash things. Learn about cause and effect. By squashing, I can cause a noise. And use a tool. With that noise, I can get someone's attention. As you can see, the discoveries overlap. It's important to remember that it's adults, not children, who divide them into categories. What children do is more integrated. They don't think, now I'm learning about object permanence and now cause and effect. They are just learning. I think you'll see this better as we look at the last two discoveries.
A good deal of the infant's learning has to do with issues of distance, movement, and perspective. These lessons are learned as infants bump into things, squeeze into tight spaces, and see things from different angles. Through tracking, infants not only begin to discover the permanent nature of objects, they also begin to understand how objects move. Being able to identify an object in space and track it through space fascinates infants. So does learning that things at a close distance can be reached.
She's pretty, baby.
But getting everything is not so easy. Some things get stuck. Learning about barriers to movement of objects, or even yourself, occupies a lot of an infant's time. Lessons about perspective can show up from anywhere. A ball far away looks small, but when it gets close, it looks very different. Small things teach about space, too. In a very real sense, infants and toddlers are young scientists, busy investigating the physical universe. They are finding out about shape,
Very good. You did it.
relative size, containers, gravity, balance.
Oh.
As children develop, they put together the knowledge they have acquired and enjoy a challenge, like making things fit. Just about everything challenges the young child's understanding of space. Look what can be learned from a simple strand of beads. Jake bunches them, trying to fit them back into the cup. He dumps them, and then Shalise takes over and tries to feed the beads into the basket. Much of spatial learning is not so obvious, such as this lesson in gravity. These beads are going to fall unless I scrunch up my shoulders. And this one in spatial rearrangement. How can I get this thing to go over my head? Spatial lessons come in all shapes and sizes. Even when things get a little rowdy, there are lessons to be learned. One of the most powerful learning devices used by infants is imitation. Imitation fosters the development of communication and a broad range of other skills. Even very young infants learn from trying to match what they see and hear. They also learn when their caregivers imitate them. This can lead to a meaningful give and take. At first, infants imitate familiar things, such as a smile or a coo. They are beginning to use imitation to communicate. Rhythms of conversation, facial expressions, and gestures, all are imitated. As the infant develops, his imitations get more complex and purposeful, using coordinated actions, such as rhythmic pounding, vocalizing, and the ever-popular peekaboo. At every stage of infancy, children repeat and practice what they see. By doing the same thing over and over again, it becomes their own. Sometimes they imitate things long after they have seen them. Things we do that we don't even think about are imitated by children. They pick up just about anything, even the motions of a parent's morning workout. Children continually use what they pick up to be social and communicate.
Dog. Dog.
Imitating what people say is the major way children learn to talk.
Big toe and little toe.
Big toe. Big toe.
Big toe. Do you want to look at the book too?
They use the words and actions of others to organize their thinking.
The baby's opening the drawer. Go little star.
Songs, games, language, and social play all depend on imitation.
The sky so high, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle.
Imitation helps children learn to share activities and to incorporate the wisdom and knowledge of others to act effectively in the world.
Want to sing again? Yes? Yes? Twinkle, twinkle.
Imitation. Cause and effect. Use of tools. Object permanence. Space. Learning schemes. When you see the discovery process in action, you start to relate to children in a new way.
Your role in the entire discovery process is crucial. What's most important is to have an attitude of respect and appreciation for what children are doing. An understanding of the 6 discoveries will deepen this appreciation and will help you find a way to support early learning. Here are some principles you may find helpful to keep in mind.
Set up a rich yet uncluttered environment. To keep things interesting, rotate your supply of toys. Too many toys at once interfere with the children's concentration. Observe children to see which of the discoveries they are engaged in. This will help you to find the best ways to relate to their play. Don't be tempted to teach children specific lessons. The activity a child chooses is the most important thing for the child to be doing at that moment. Let activities go on longer than you might think you should before you try to help. You might interrupt a significant learning experience. The least amount of help is often the best.
I don't have any more. We have to use these. You want this?
A little participation without interfering lets the child's play unfold. Your sensitivity to the importance of the learning process is key. children will be encouraged by your attention and interest in their play. Your support offers children the security they need to freely engage in discovery.
What I hope we've helped you to see is the specialness and the significance of early learning. Infants are in a lively encounter with the world, gaining new eyes to see with, thoughts to think with, and skills to use. By knowing the 6 discoveries, you will find it easier to share in the drama and the excitement of learning.